So, Mari is an awesome leader, teacher, role model, author, champion of people. So, there's so much that you can learn from Mari. And so, I'm going to hand it over to her so you can hear from her directly.
Fantastic. Thank you, Linda. And thank you everyone for being here. This is so exciting. And Ava, could you put the slides in the chat because I can't find the chat now. So, oh, perfect. So I have a slide deck because one of the things I've learned over time and speaking is that when on Zoom, it's really helpful to be able to not have to take notes and to know that you have access to my slides. The other thing is that some of you have actually seen this book and have read it maybe. And what I'm going to talk about today is the method that I've developed as a result of this book. And to start with, I want to tell you a little bit of my story. So I'm going to share my slides. Here we go. So that you can see them that way. And also you can see my face. So here we go. So there we go. There's the book. Here we are today. And I'm attempting to, there we go. So a little bit about my story is that I have a pretty intense health journey myself. And a little bit of this method, this system that I've created is related to my health journey in that I have had a lot of health challenges. I've been living with type 1 diabetes for 43 years. And I am currently living with an active case of breast cancer, my third one over 19 years. And I also have an informed trauma story that interfaces with my health story because those two things are very intertwined. And I'm a sexual abuse survivor, and I watched my father die almost every single year of my childhood. Turns out that's very traumatic, and it resulted in me having PTSD. That's my official mental health diagnosis. And I didn't discover that I was an athlete until I was in my 30s. I'm now almost 60. Woohoo! And I did my first big bike ride when I was 39 or 38. And then when I was 39, I found out I had breast cancer for the first time. And a month after I finished radiation, I did my first triathlon. Since then, I've done about 42 triathlons and countless half marathons, 2 marathons, lots and lots of 100-mile bike rides. And my career story is also very varied because I like to try things out. My passions shift and change. And I was a high school Spanish teacher. I was a high school principal. I was the CEO of a company that trained people with diabetes to be endurance athletes. I'm currently the internship coordinator at the University of Minnesota. I'm a writer and a blogger, and I teach people about LinkedIn. So I do a lot of different things. So the extreme healing method is really the first 6 chapters of my book. And there they are: belief, concerns and challenges, fears and obstacles, motivation, sign up, and recognizing your team. And one of the key things to know about this method is that it's not linear. It's actually a spiral, and that as you move through life and through your health journey and your fitness and athletic journey, you can go through these different steps, these different points in this method, depending on where you are. And to know that that is okay is really, really important. I wrote this book for my 35-year-old self because I wished a book like this existed, and it didn't, that I could find at that time. And turns out when I got my third cancer diagnosis, I went through this whole process again, and I still go through it. So I'm going to share, and we'll have time at the end for questions and answers. So just hang in there with me. So the first step is your belief. What do you believe about your own skills and abilities? And my invitation to all of you is to embrace the belief that you are an athlete. Now, in the world of Olympic sports and, you know, Caitlin Clark and all these amazing pro athletes, it's very difficult for regular folks to believe that you are an athlete. And my understanding of being an athlete is if you have a human body and you can move one little tiny part of your body, you are an athlete. So, and what happens when you embrace that belief about yourself is that you then start to see the world in a different way. You start, I mean, one of the things that happened for me is I started to ask myself, would an athlete do that? Instead of, would a person with diabetes do that? Would a person with cancer do that? So it shifted how I approached the world. And so I invite all of you to embrace the notion that you are an athlete. And I repeated it over and over and over to myself. So that's step number one. Step number two is to actually identify your health concerns and challenges. And rather than ignore it, is to actually label it and embrace it. Because when you acknowledge these challenges that you have, you can remove it from the inner dialogue of your own self and put it out there. Like, one of the things a lot of people with diabetes can hide it. It's not visible automatically. And I mean, when I first was diagnosed, I immediately started telling everyone that I had diabetes because I watched my father not tell anyone. And I watched how that hurt him. And I thought, I'm going to just try doing it a different way. Plus, I was 16 and I was rebellious. And part of why I think this is important is that I give you two tools in the book to really focus and know where you are in relationship to your diagnosis and your challenge. So first is to recognize that there are stages of grief. And again, it's not linear when it comes to thinking about your health, that you can go from denial to bargaining, back to anger, maybe tap into acceptance, and then go back to total bargaining. So or depression. So, and this happens to me every time I've gotten diagnosed with cancer. I go through all of these stages of grief, and some days it just hits me again. So recognizing and being able to know where you are in the stages of grief is actually very empowering. And then some of you might know about motivational interviewing, which is also known as the stages of change. This is a method of knowing where you are in terms of being able to take action. So I'm not going to go into all of that right now, but I do in the book. And this is another strategy that you can use to help you see and recognize your challenge and then move to action. And one of the things that helps me move to action is recognizing that all of us have an inner healer. And all of us have deep wisdom about our healing ability, which we're not really ever taught that. And knowing that you have a wise, wise inner healer, that if you take a moment, I meditate every day and I listen to my inner healer. And one of the relationships I have with cancer is, what is cancer trying to teach me? Clearly, I haven't learned it because cancer keeps coming back. So I keep listening closely. What does cancer want to teach me? Because clearly it does. At least that's my belief. So that's step number two. Step number three is the next step after recognizing your obstacles is to notice what are your fears and what gets in your way of actually being an athlete. And again, I encourage you to write this down so it isn't just clambering around in your brain. And then to reframe the obstacles and the fears. So when I got my third diagnosis, I'm on an aromatase inhibitor, which causes massive, massive physical pain. And I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And I had tons of fear. It was a major obstacle. And I was like, you know what? I got to get help. And that was part of the reframing of the obstacle. And my oncologist prescribed me to go to PT for the rest of my life. And I go all the time because I found two amazing PTs that are helping me navigate this constant pain. I have all this weird pain in my back, and I do now mobility exercises every day, and it helps quite a bit with the pain. And the other thing with fears and obstacles is to give yourself a lot of time, a lot of space, and grace, and just really comfort and love yourself for recognizing your fears and obstacles and then beginning to move past them. Okay, motivation, get out the door. And this is the next step that I think is totally critical, because if you don't actually get out the door, you're just thinking about being an athlete. You're just thinking about, which is an important step, is thinking. And then how do you get motivated? How do you take action? So I like to think about it in terms of internal motivation and external motivation. And internal motivation is things like knowing you feel better if you go for a walk, if you go for a run, if you go for a bike ride, if you do a yoga session, if you lift some weights. So feeling better and feeling well and good is more of an internal motivation. External motivation is getting cheered on at a race, raising a lot of money at a charity bike ride and being totally thrilled to go to the champions dinner. That's external motivation. So knowing the interplay between the two is very helpful. The other thing that I like people to pay attention to is what inspires you. I mean, one of the people that inspires me is my running coach, who his name is Danny, and he's 34. So he's a lot younger than me. And he made it to the Olympic marathon trials, which happened in February of 2024. And every time I see Danny run, he runs like 5-minute miles for an entire marathon, which is like twice as fast as I can run, but 3 times as fast as I can run. And he always looks like he's floating on air. And for the first time, when he went to the Olympic trials, he came in 67th. He always comes in first. And I was like, this is Danny being a regular athlete, a regular person at this race. And it was so inspiring, and watching that race, oh, I was so moved. And it made me want to go run some more. So he was an inspiration. So noticing who inspires you and let them inspire you. So that's number 4, and paying attention to it and writing it down and kind of reminding yourself what motivates you. Now, I am all about action. I really like taking action. So one of the things that I think helps you take action is to sign up for an event, for a race. And there's something intense when you give money to an organization and you say, yes, I'm going to show up at this marathon and I'm going to walk it, but I'm going to show up. So really committing yourself. And then I encourage people to backwards plan. So sign up for a race or an event, and then look at the date of the race or the event, and then backwards plan to today. And how many weeks do you have to be ready? Ideally, depending on what the event is, you would give yourself 16 weeks at the minimum to get ready. 12 is doable also. And then figuring out your life so that you can make the thing happen. So, and number 6 is coming in a moment, and getting support and the people lined up so that you can actually achieve it. And one of the things that I like to do is visualize myself completing the event. So that's an exercise that's very helpful. And I also encourage people to play the believing game. And this is if you're still kind of beginning. And the believing game is where you pretend that you can do it no problem. So you visualize yourself in the clothing, you visualize yourself on the route, you visualize yourself, moving your body in such a way that you're going to actually finish and get the medal. I've got all my medals from my races this year right next to me when I work, because I love these visual kinesthetic, I can put my hands on them reminders. So that's all before you actually sign up. And then to go to the website and click, I'm going to do it. I'm going to sign up. So you get the confirmation email and you're like, all right, here we go. And one of the things I use all the time, and every single endurance athlete that I follow on Instagram, they all use mantras. So mantras are things that you tell yourself to help you actually achieve your goal. So Courtney, I can't remember Courtney's last name. She does 100-mile runs and she wins them. And her mantra is, I'm fine. I'm fine. And she's in the pain cave, which is when everything in your entire body hurts. And she says to herself, I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. Everything is fine, which is kind of denial, but it works for her. And mine that I use is, I am strong. This is actually fun. My body is so strong. And so those are the kinds of mantras I use. And I encourage people to make those up and write them down and say them to yourself all the time. So the next level, the next step in this process is to recognize that doing it alone is virtually impossible. You need and want to have a team around you. And your role on your team is you are the CEO of your team. And to shift, and this also helps with the shift from victim to athlete, is that moving from thinking that you're a victim of your health situation or your obstacles and challenges into viewing yourself as the CEO of your team helps really regain your power and regain your leadership of yourself. So that is kind of the first thing, but you're not alone, which is what number 2 gets to, is that you want to have physical health team members. And what that means is doctors and nurses and physicians assistants and chiropractors and acupuncturists and massage therapists, that they are all on your team. Because I've had so much trauma, I also go to therapy almost every week to help me process the trauma and process the new things that are happening. I mean, one of the new therapist I found, she's actually has a background in hospice, because having cancer for the first time or third time really has gotten me in touch with my mortality. I am going to die. Oh, so are all of us. So how do I navigate that? And how do I navigate that as an athlete? And thankfully, my therapist really is good at helping me examine it and really feel it and really be with it as I'm still incredibly healthy. I'm still, I just ran a half marathon last weekend. So having your team members who are part of your medical and your mental health team is really valuable. Write them down. Number 3 is coaches. Now you can coach yourself and you can hire coaches and be part of a team and use the coaches that are part of that. I talk a lot about why coaches are super valuable. Number 4 is that you have friends and family who support you. Now, you may have friends and family who don't support you. Minimize your time with those people and maximize your time with the friends and family who do support you. And then there's number 5, which maybe you can convince 1 or 2 or 3 of them to do the event you've signed up for with you and train with you. Because again, training by yourself is not ideal. You can do it, and I don't recommend it for the long haul. So find people to help you out. And then another resource is groups and clubs. So you can find groups and clubs, and I talk a lot about how you can do that in the book. And that, so those are all chapters 1 through 6. And I'm gonna, there's 7 through 13. You know, you can read the book at your leisure, take a look at it, because I talk about gear and nutrition and sleep and training plans and how to shift after the event. What do you do then? And making it all yours. Okay, now we are ready for Q&A. And oh, here's a little quote from my friend Donna, and how you can stay in touch with me. So I'm gonna stop the share, and I did the whole thing in 20 minutes. Woohoo! All right, now I want to hear from you. What questions do you have?
All right, team, I'll encourage anyone born outside the United States to raise your hand first. Those who are in minorities also push to the front. We'd love to hear your questions. Go ahead, Sylvia.
I would like to ask Mary more specific details about the visualization technique and believing that you can do it.
Okay, so that's a great question. So visualization is actually something that every top Olympic athlete does. So do you ever do visualization, Sylvia?
I would like to do it more because I don't know where to start, to be honest.
Right. Well, okay. So one of the things that I encourage people for starting visualization is set a timer on your phone for 3 minutes. Okay. And then for that 3 minutes, you visualize, and visualize just means imagine. So just put yourself in whatever athletic thing you want to do and just imagine doing the thing. So what that can mean is like, do you have an event or an activity that you want to do? Go to the gym, sign up for a 5K. Which one of those?
Yeah, I was thinking about not physical activity, just something that is more, how to say that, fierce, so obstacle.
Got it. Okay. So again, whatever it is you're wanting to do, spend 3 minutes visualizing. And the believing game is that you believe you can do it. So you don't let all the doubts and all the hesitations in. You just pretend that you 100% can do it. And you just imagine yourself doing it. And you just do that for 3 minutes. And then you kind of, the 3 minutes are done and you just breathe and you notice, okay, I'm going to just let this be real. And then the next day, try it again. And it's more about convincing the doubting self that you actually can do it.
Okay.
I mean, I visualize all the time. I mean, I visualize before I go to the doctor. Like I visualize that the doctor is going to be telling me fantastic news, that I'm going to receive whatever news she has with an open heart. So you can use visualization in many ways. That's a great question, Sylvia.
Thanks. I think that we can do it at the beginning of the day. So at the morning for to visualize the day and something that scares us.
Exactly.
Thank you, Mary.
You bet. You bet.
Go ahead, Ava.
Mari, there's a question in the chat from Marie. She says, can you talk about your progress in connecting? That can be a hard barrier for people just starting out. How do you find your support to run and participate in triathlons?
Yeah.
And how does that translate to your daily life and connection? Yeah.
Right. Well, that Marie, I love it that you're asking that. I'm in a triathlon group with Marie, and Marie and I are part of the group that also often will run together and or swim and bike together. Marie is telling us she's not a plant, but it's true. I mean, it's one of the things is that's part of the setting up your team is who is willing to join you and to what level are they willing to join you. So I'm part of a group with Marie where we text each other almost every day, telling each other what physical things we're going to do for our health and wellness. So finding one or two people that are willing to do that with you is step number one. So, and it's like, you just try it out. You know, we met and started doing this during the pandemic. So we didn't meet in person. We met over Zoom, and then we met outside, and we stayed 6 feet apart from each other. And we'd yell, okay, what are you going to do today? It was kind of silly, but it worked. So a lot of it is about just start with one other person. And there's, you know, in the book, I talk about a lot of different methods to find that one person, you know, either going to a run store or a bike store that might offer group activities, and finding one person who's kind of at your pace. I'm really slow runner. So when I found this group of really slow runners, I was like, yes. So it's like finding people at your skill and pace level is critical. So I hope that sort of explains, Marie. I mean, part of it is just get one person and then keep showing up with each other. Yeah. Yeah. Any more questions? Is there another one in the chat? I can't really see the chat, so. Oh, your regular life outside of athletics. Yes, yes, indeed.
Mhm.
It translates, that's for sure. Yeah, yeah. I mean, like, one of the things that's true is that athletics is a primary focus of my entire life. Although I am going to start writing a romance novel. That's my next book. It's kind of silly. Go from nonfiction to writing romance. It's good fun. Any other questions? Any other thoughts?
Go
Yes,
ahead,
Ava.
Eva.
So there's another one in the chat from Jamie, and Jamie writes, "Hi Marie, thanks for this tip. I have had a very shaky past with exercise, being forced into it as a kid, etc. I'm trying to enjoy movement again, but I find it's an issue of motivation, as you said. I have the time and convenience, but I still don't do it. Any tips? Any motivation tips?"
Well, this is it. So I've coached a few different people. And one of the things that I did and do with people is I talk about, what do you enjoy? Like, what did your child self enjoy before they were forced? And one of the common themes is dance. And I have gone on JAGs where all I do is dance for 20 minutes. I put on a timer, I put on a music show, and I just dance. And you can dance kind of wild. And that's good exercise. Like, you know, you can lift your feet up and shimmy around and it makes you feel happy and joyous and delighted. So not only are you exercising, but at the end of it, you've, you know, lowered your blood sugar, you've had fun, and you're often laughing. So and I'm talking about dancing by yourself when no one's home, no one can see you. So that's like one of the key ones that I recommend to people when you're just sort of thinking about it. The other one is just walking. I mean, walking is so healthy. So just go out for a 10-minute walk, 20-minute walk, 30-minute walk. If you have a dog, take the dog. So those are kind of the easy ones that I encourage people to get started with. Oh, I love Janine. I know Janine's a dance therapist. So Janine, I think about you all the time when I turn on my music and dance. I love it. I love it. So hopefully, Jamie, that is a place to start, is what's fun, and go with that. Yeah. Any other questions? We have a few more moments for questions.
Yes, I do have a question. Actually, I have two questions. But before asking my question, I want to acknowledge and say that I'm very impressed with your strength. I'm very impressed how motivated you are. I heard you mentioning that you are battle cancer for the third time. I heard the trauma. I heard diabetes. It's so many things and you share here, then I'm here. Whoa, how you find the motivation? how you find the strength. And when I first joined the media, I say, I'm passionate about life. I love to hear people's story because I can learn from. And guess what? Hear from you, I learned and we have a lot in common, right? I'm currently battle breast cancer as well for the first time. And I do not want to imagine to do this for the second, third time. Hell to the no. I'm sorry for my language. I do not want that. And see you here doing for the third time. And you have the strength, the courage, and you motivated, you inspire, you're smiling, you are running. Miss Lady, congratulations for all the amazing work. Congratulations for being so strong, for being so brave. I'm so happy. I'm so grateful to be here today because as you say in the beginning, a lot of the time we are in denial. We don't want to accept it. And I can relate to that because I do not want to talk about cancer. I don't want to talk about cancer. And I be running away from talk about cancer. And I did not know that I'll be here listen to a cancer story. And then it make me remember what you're saying when you're in denial, it's gonna haunt you. You have to embrace it. You have to accept it. And when you embrace it, you accept it. That's how you find the strength to continue. It doesn't matter if it's a cancer, if it's a family problem, but when we embrace our journey, our ugliness, our trauma, our sickness, that's how we find the strength to move forward. And be here today and listen to you, it just confirmed to me, yes, we need to embrace. Yes, we have to be motivated. And I like how you give us exercise to visualize, to believe even before happen. And I like the way you say, I'm strong. And I believe it because you use that word so much, you become it and you are strong. There is no way somebody's gonna battle for 3 times. I'm a battle for the first time. And let me tell you, let me not get started because we're not gonna have time for all the stories, all the ugly and the good. So I just want to say thank you for sharing with us. Thank you for motivating me. Thank you for inspiring me. I'm very grateful. And my question to you is, how can I get a copy of your book? I am a USA, I'm not sure, maybe you share, but I'm not 100% sure if you did. Where can we get it? Are you in the United States? I like what you said, and it's important to keep yourself moving, meaning you have to exercise. And when I first joined, I said, I'm not gonna put my camera on because I'm not looking so great. I just come from my work. I do every day, I work for 1 to 2 hours. So I just want to learn more from you. That's all I want to say. And thank you so much for the opportunity to hear your story.
Perfect, perfect. Well, Maria Luisa, I thank you for your words, for telling us some of your story. And one of the things I want to be sure to encourage you to consider is that you sound to me like you're in the stages of grief around dealing with breast cancer, and that we're not given tools to understand our health crises, which is why that's one of the key things I do in my book and why it's part of my system, is that denial is real and that is actually a critical, important part of the stages of grief. And acceptance is one end, but you can keep circling around. So Maria Luisa, hang in there. That is, and give yourself lots of grace. And thank you for taking a step today to tell us your story. And Ava put my website in there, and you can buy my book on Amazon, and or you can send Linda Brandt a message. She has a few copies and she might send you one. So there's a few options, Maria, for you about that. Oh, and we're right on time. Woo-hoo-hoo! Time for the Wise Inc. or Wise, not Inc. The Wise Coaching.